an area called Hex River in a South African orchard managed by a young professional agriculturalist by the name of Robert Brown, university trained, on behalf of Dome Citrus Company. We're in a patch of Nordicot, or Aurophora in Australia, citrus. These trees are 2004 plant on a 5x2 metre spacing. Robert took over the management of this orchard 3 seasons ago. It's a very dense planted orchard, so you're looking at 1,000 trees per hectare. Management style previous to his taking over was small cuts of window pruning, and that they were really losing row access and some continuity of crop. Although they were still cropping at quite high levels, some years 90 tonnes per hectare, they were running into some issues with lower crops at times and biennial bearing. Robert's sort of taken on a little bit of a different styled approach to his pruning. It's been a common theme so far in our time in South Africa. They call it a Christmas tree pruning, or a pyramid tree pruning. So rather than vasing a tree out, they're really looking at bringing the tree in closer all together, all the fruiting points in closer to the main trunk to try and stop the encroaching of the tree into the row, so you can maintain row access and stop your fruit hanging and hitting the ground. But they want to maintain some height of that tree, so they're sort of aiming for an angled wall of fruit on one side of the triangle and then down on the other side of the triangle. And to do that, they will have a multi-stage approach per season to their pruning. Also of note, Robert was saying his feeling is in this block, it's not a 1 year fix to get the trees into the style he wants. He thinks he's got a 6 year window of continually pushing this style on the tree to really get the tree into the shape that he wants to have going forwards. And then there's going to be continual management in that style as well. So at the moment, this orchard he feels is not quite where he wants it, but he's showing us the steps to get to where he wants to get to. This particular block here, I think last year was saying it was around 90 tonnes per hectare, and this year he's got over 100. We feel, and he feels sitting in here again. It's an impressive patch of trees. So the style really aiming for as soon as pruning's finished, they'll come in with a team of pruners, and they will take out limbs sort of on below shoulder height or below head height was Robert's term. So they will not cut a limb above head height. They'll always make sure it comes down below head height. With limbs that are poking up too high and going out towards the row, and then that creates a window and light for the branches down below. He's happy to, when he cuts those limbs, leave a stump. So you can see just here, there's a nice little stump left with that pruning, and that allows that wood to shoot back out from that stump to create some new fruiting bodies going forward as he manages that regrowth. At the same time, he said he will also address the width of the tree. So he gives his workers a stick for a guideline and says, here's the line on the ground for your guideline. While you're making that cut there, let's look at what's hanging out into the row and then snip that back, not so much right on the edge of the guideline, but to the next best place that you come back to either a 45-degree angle or a branch. So in this case here, you might snip this back to that side branch there, or even right back to the stub there to let these shoots here now become that next lateral growth coming out and towards the row. Always letting the tree, pushing the tree back in while it's pushing back out, not letting that tree continually push out into your row. So after Robert does that initial prune, there'll be regrowth, and it's been a feature of every orchard we've seen so far. This regrowth will come from his little stubs, and that's desired. But what he doesn't want is that regrowth to take off, one of them to take dominance and head to the roof. So they'll come back in December and then again later in January and manage this regrowth. In December, Robert's theory is to thin any shoots here back to 3 shoots per area, so that there's not an excess of wood, I suppose, competing for nutrients and plugging up that space. There's good space and good light there. And then the shoots that are there that he wants to keep, he snaps them down to around 20 or 30 centimetres. He likes to have 3 leaves there. Or in this case, Robert snips, some other guys will snap them out. So that'll happen first time there, say in December, and then they'll come back later in January once that's reshot and do it again at the same sort of height, 3 leaves from the top of that last cut. That wood there now has the ability to throw a flower next season, and as it branches more, the season after, and we have fruit now coming back in closer to the tree on healthy, rejuvenated wood without dead wood. The tree, to get our 45-degree structure and shape, we need an upper story. So Robert has maintained these branches here and in the center of the tree as the upper story. But in time, those branches are angling out and shading over the lower layers. And it's counterproductive to what he wants, because it's stopping light down here, and it then also falls out into the row further. So just to explain a little bit further the central leader idea, we've also got a 4.8 metre net over these trees, and there is an issue with them growing quite quickly up into the netting. So while he still wants to maintain this angled wall of fruit, he's sort of aiming for 45 degrees, he was talking to us, when he does take this central leader main branch out down to head height, he doesn't really want to let these other ones regrow back up higher again. So that spot, the next time Robert comes through and takes these out to say there, his head height, that's going to be the new top height of the tree that your fruiting wood's going to come out. So your highest fruiting wood's going to be up sort of hand reach height, just keeping him away from that top net, allowing to manage the tree's vigor a little bit more. Yeah, so eventually with the 6-year plan, the idea is that all these big blind shoots going up here, heading towards the impact on yield and or even ability to get that done, and tree recovery as well. It's very, very evident that inside the tree there's a lack of deadwood, there's plenty of light, and there's plenty of fresh growth. And the trees are quite open and well spaced for dense trees on 5x2 spacings with 100 tonne a hectare crop. They look like there is an ability there again next year with all this fresh green growth around the tree without crop on it now to crop again next season.
So we're in Robert's orchard under nets in a different block, and these trees were Satsumas 4 years ago, and they were reworked to Tango. And you can see this tree here is rather narrow. That's because he's trying to maintain this row spacing, not letting it go like those other trees you saw, by continually pruning and pushing the tree in. And the theory behind it is he comes in, he might get one of these branches here and just lop it off here to push it, to let it come in and branch out, so continually starting to rejuvenate and push the canopy over here. And we can actually see this tree over here. It's got one really good example of you can see down here where he's chopped it back and pushed the canopy in. You can imagine this one back here, it used to be all the way going up, perhaps even leaning out. It used to be leaning out into the row. Well, now it's pushed back in, the canopy is back in there now, and obviously he's managed the regrowth like Ryan discussed previously by tipping and topping to try again, get complex wood. reduce the amount of water shoots and turn them into complex productive wood. Now, with the height of the tree, he pretty much likes to keep this about that height. And the way he'll do that is saying that, yes, these trees, this branch here might eventually bend down, crop, but then once it starts doing that, you come in and you take it off down there, continually pushing the tree back in, maintaining that canopy inside the tree. And that height there, he says it's fine. And continually rejuvenating that top part of the Christmas tree.